Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the ESL Katowice Royale. We are set up beautifully for our final two games of the day, with all players still in contention for that top spot. But before we get into our game number 6, we wanted to catch up with a couple more players who are still left in the tournament.
Nazywam się Jan Bukowski, jestem z Zakopanego, mój nick w grze to Jasiek po prostu.
Nazywam się Szymon Skowroński, mieszkam w Lubelskim, mój nick w grze to Ajun. Zacząłem grać w Fortnite dlatego, że kolega mi pokazał tę grę i zainteresowała mnie dosyć. No i gram do tego czasu, bo lubię.
Też z kolegami graliśmy pierwsze w CS-a, no ale znudziło nam się, no i pomyśleliśmy nad czymś innym i akurat Fortnite wyszedł wtedy, no i zaczęliśmy sobie grać i tak już zostało.
Zauważyliśmy, że przeszliśmy na wyższy poziom gry w Fortnite wtedy, gdy zaczęliśmy wygrywać gry na już tych lepszych graczy, topowych graczy z Polski, z Europy. Staramy się grać codziennie, trenować razem, grać gry na trochę wyższym poziomie niż te standardowe, czyli customy.
Do poprawy mamy wszystko. No i nie wiem, styl gry no to różnie, zależy na kogo gramy. W sumie no agresywnie gramy.
Loving these videos that we're seeing from the players at the moment. Really getting to sort of learn a little bit more about them, not just about Fortnite, but out of game as well. And these guys obviously saying, you know, they got introduced to it because someone just showed it to them. And here they are. I mean, competing on a stage like this. What a transition that is.
I love those type of stories. Those are exactly the kind of thing that's how I got into it. A friend was like, hey, please play the game. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then it just hooked me from there. It was absolutely fantastic. I love the passion and the grind that they go through to get here and start doing what they do best. Winning games, placing, and just what they love, right?
It's so strange because it's exactly the same for me when I started playing Fortnite. It was like one of my friends was like, come on, try Fortnite, try and see how we get on. You know when you're playing something else and you're like, ah, sure, like, yeah, I'll get into it. And then you play once and it's like, yeah, I've just played this game constantly since then, and that's it. That is pretty much what happens here. It is such an accessible game for so many, and it catches the imagination of so many. I can see you smiling at the end, Speedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my friend was in London and he texted me, hey, Speedy, you got to get online and try this game out. And I'm like, all right, but how much is it? It's free. I'm like, all right.
I'll give
it on. I got on the Xbox. It's a little hard to build with, you know, a controller. Eventually made the switch over to PC, and you know, ever since I've been in love with the game.
Okay, well, we have some highlights of our previous round. As you can see there, a big win again coming in for Jarkos. That's 2 victory royales on the board for him, and now he's moved up with that big performance there from 7th to 3rd place now. So when the leaderboard's getting towards these endgames, if you can make that big of a jump, I think that shows how much of an impactful game that was for him.
Yeah, Jarkos is inching ever so closer to Shikuni, who's in 1st place right now. But 2 wins for him, 2 wins for Shikuni as well. They're going to go after it.
It's very, very true. And looking at the top of the leaderboard, you know, Shikuni and QLN are kind of trading places at the moment. What does it get if you're sat at the top of the leaderboards, Speedy, when you've only got sort of a couple of rounds to go, and it is that tight between the person who's just underneath you? Does that start playing with your head a little bit and how you want to play the game, or are you just going to kind of stick to what you know?
No. What they've been doing is obviously working for them. You don't want to switch it up, especially going into these last 2 games. You definitely want to maintain that consistency. You don't want to, you know, get eliminated early game, mid game. You want to make it to those end games, maximize your points as much as possible. Make sure that the lead doesn't get too far ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely don't want to change anything. You want to keep going with the consistency. And we're looking at the standings right now. Noisy actually coming all the way up to 14th. He kind of came out of nowhere. Last 2 games, he's been placing really well there. And he's in 14th. That's in the money.
I want to keep an eye on him as well, because you know when you just feel like there's kind of players who can kind of catch fire. We saw it yesterday towards the end of the day, and Noisy, you know, he clutched up a couple of times in big situations at big times in the tournament in the duos. So certainly want to keep an eye on. But I want to talk about Evil as well. We kind of touched on it at the end of the last segment. You're talking about consistency and, you know, placing well and everything. One bad game, though, and all of a sudden he slipped down from 5th to 7th place. And if that happens again, I mean, that could be scary moments for him.
That's totally true. I was going to talk about Evil. I was going to talk about Teak, right? Evil had those consistent performances, but then suddenly you're not consistent anymore, and you need to have one of those big pop-off games. And you talked about the big ones. Teak, we actually saw QLN was one of those guys who ended up getting into first that one time, but Teak is going to be one of those guys who needs it as well. He's right under his teammate at, I think he's in 6th place as well.
Well, just because you have one bad game doesn't mean you can't bounce back. Shikuni going down in game number 4 in the mid game, lost first place on the leaderboards, came back strong in game 5, and got right back up to the top.
Yeah, and Shikuni is definitely, we saw the standings. He has a little bit of a gap, so he has a little bit of breathing.
Little bit of a
There's
gap,
two
yeah, a little bit
games
of a gap.
left. There's so many players in striking distance, though. All those people in top 5, top 10 really is in striking distance. There's 2 games to do what you got to do. You can probably, if he's playing consistently, you're going to inch up 40 points on him probably, maybe if you have a really good pop-off game, but there's 21 points between him. So I don't know. It's all in striking distance. We can definitely
of it, isn't it? When we do have 2 rounds to go, but there are still so many points still available to be picked up, whether it's eliminations, whether it's a decent placing. Speedy, I wanted to ask you who you had your eyes on as we get into our round number 6. Who are the players that you're going to be looking out for?
Well, obviously, Kuni, QLN, Macius have been, performing at the top level. Every single one of those players is absolutely consistent, placing top 5 in the leaderboards every single game. And I'm definitely going to keep an eye on all 3 of those players.
And here we are into the game again, showing off Tomato Temple. We show it off a lot over here. I think there's somewhat of a little bit of an obsession over with the
coming into retail. Minigun is one of his favorite items. I think we saw one of those in the end games. Kind of an interesting point there. Miniguns in Poland, we see them a lot in the end game, which I'm not really used to seeing in end game in the NA.
Yeah, there's like multiple miniguns each end game every single time, Speedy. You're absolutely correct about that. Why is that? Why are they using the minigun so much now?
It's just so good for applying pressure to those people that are, just outside the zone, and they're fighting their way to claw inside and get safe away from storm damage. But Boohoo was holding a minigun, holding down that click and making sure that there's no free rotation into zone. Yeah. If you want to get in here, you have to fight for it.
Yeah, and here we're into Pleasant. Kuki doesn't have a weapon there. He's going to get chased down. And now over towards Retail. Sake versus this player in the box. He's actually going to edit out and go ahead. So he takes the high ground. He's going to turtle down himself. Not many materials on these players as they start the fights in the early game. That tactical shotgun not doing
4 HP remaining.
From range there, he is so low on HP. Just like you said, that pump shotgun, only 1 shot, and that's all it needs. Nasik goes down.
He did land his tac shotgun, but Sake had so much health that it didn't really do much.
Yeah, and here we're back into Kuki and Skix. Kuki actually closed the door. Skix was behind it, and he didn't realize. So with the tac shotgun, just catches him by surprise.
Attack. We see this consistently. Unfortunately, it is a good gun to have in the early game if you don't have a swap weapon. But definitely not a gun that you want to carry into the mid game.
Having that swap weapon so key with that pump shotgun. With the tactical shotgun, you get a little bit faster rate of fire, so that's going to be really nice there. Here we're into Lazy Link's. Wilku actually is starting to make his way up in the standings as well. Jarko's picking up Elim in the feed.
2 players contesting Lazy Link. There is somewhat, enough loot for both of these players, but, not enough to make it to the end game.
Yeah, you typically see 2 or 3 players here, and they do this split where one person takes the top building over there, and then one. Oh, actually, there was a build fight here already, so definitely somebody was here.
Definitely, and Red Tree kind of backing on out there, saying, okay, I have the option to disengage here, but maybe I look around. I do have a heavy sniper. Maybe I can get 150 body tag on this guy before I decide to push.
One of the things was that zone did land up on Lazy. It's very, very northernly, so we're going to see probably a Lazy Link's ending, actually, judging by the zone right now. Woku was up there. He was inching his way forward. He did get 2nd place yesterday, so he's going to be trying to go ahead and finish strong here today.
The redeploy, you love to see it. It's definitely an item that allows you to, have an advantage on high ground in the end game.
Yeah.
I've definitely been seeing a lot more pros, warm up to the redeploy, especially when you're, a mile above the rest of the players.
And now over towards that Junk Junction area, it's actually Kuvbas versus Mikey. We've been seeing this fight day in and day out, round in and round out, exactly. Now, actually, Mikey's going to take the high ground. I think Kuvbas is starting to get a little bit scared as he did not even fight for it, but there he goes, 90s up. Mikey loses it, and now he's gonna drop down, doesn't exchange the shot.
The Q-Bus is so weak here, it's kind of risky to make those edits.
That silence SMG spray does get a little bit of tags through there, but it's not gonna be enough. Kuvbas and Mikey did trade now.
No shields on either of them.
Yeah, Kuvbas is gonna, he's continuing to pressure without, he doesn't have any heals now that we see his loadout. No heals, he's not gonna he's trying to pressure so much that he's not gonna get those minis off, but he does let him. So Mikey back in the advantage right now. Kuvbas needs to hit a good shot to get back into this. We'll see what he's able to do. Looking for that pump, not managing to find it, still pressuring.
I mean, I'm just surprised how aggressive he's pushing with 18 HP remaining. I mean, at this point, you have no choice. You have to clean up the kill.
Yeah, he definitely needs to clean up that kill. Now Kuvbas is playing a little bit more passive, a little bit more scared now that Mikey has gotten back into it, but no. That redeploy actually, Speedy, just like you were talking about, and Mikey not low, so that redeploy was not risky at all. He's gonna go all the way down, he's gonna reset the fight. This is so big. And now, Mikey down on low ground. We'll see, he doesn't manage to do it, but the clinger's out. He has no more mats, that's why he went down, Speedy. Oh, the clinger! It takes him all the way down! Kuvbas can do this!
26 HP, he ends up going down. Q-Bus ended up turning that around with 16 HP.
That was such a smart play by Mikey to try to reset the fight, but he didn't realize how much structure was actually down there, Speedy.
Absolutely. Here in Viking Village, Lothar, our caster next week.
Yeah, he's going to be joining us on the desk next week. He's here in Viking Village. He does have the stronger position. He can take shots, but there's so many places to kind of sneak around.
He's got a rift in his inventory and rifts all around him. You know, he doesn't really have to take this fight if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, you can definitely see he maybe was deciding to disengage there, but I think he had the advantage in that fight, so we'll see. Possibly hop back there later on. And here's Kempskin against Ketrab. Just floor him off. This already has been a long fight. He almost hit that shot jumping down. You saw he tried to predict where his opponent was. There's the Tfue Classic coming in, dropping the shot, and then the floor. And now, Ketrab actually does manage to retake high ground. He might be able to find a little bit of a pause in this fight to retake. Now,
looks like Ketrab's just going to turtle on it in there. Cameron trying to pressure that wall, get the wall replaced.
Yeah, and Kempson trying for that wall replace. Definitely trying to keep the pressure up, especially because he knows he did get a lot of damage, but the
Stormwing third party.
The Stormwing third party indeed.
You expect it almost every single fight.
Especially when you get a little bit of height. People start looking, and especially in the Stormwings. Now, Stormwing is gone. It's just one-on-one. Ketrab looking for an opportunity to reassert his advantage. Right now, still low. Still one pump shotgun, though, onto Kempson. Will do the deal. You can see Evil in the background there. Here's Kempson still pressuring that wall.
They are in the safe zone. They can take this fight as long as they need to. There's not a lot of rush in terms of, you know, worrying about the zone.
That's definitely a good point. You could see he tried to stare over. Again, not getting the edit off just in time. They're actually going underneath his stair. Oh, no more mats. He's at 11 HP. That was so close. And that's the advantage. That's the thing that Ketrab needed to turn this fight around.
If only he had redeploy.
If only he had redeploy. It looks like Ketrab did manage to find some shield. There, he's trying to take that shot, just trying to find exactly where his opponent is. This is such a tense moment here for these two. Again, the pump shotgun can put out so much damage. There it is, another one. There's just so much, the chip damage with these pump shotguns.
That was a tough situation to be on in the low ground. So weak, so low on HP. Not a lot of builds to even, you know, build defensively.
Yeah, and you could see how he tried to build down, tried to get inside of the builds, tried to kind of lose where he was. But remember, he had no materials.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah,
you have to, you know, you have to be aggressive in that situation.
That's for sure. And now, moving in, this first circle closing. Just now, it's not going to be a Lazy Link ending. It's going to go towards Loot Lake and Dusty Divot. Still a large circle, second circle.
It's not a terrible circle, especially if you're thinking about endgame. There's only one major mountain over by Dusty, the Plain Depot mountain.
That river next to Tomato is definitely one that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. Those river endings with the hills on both sides tends to be a little tricky, but not as tricky as something like Viking. Now, again, into King, onto Kazi. Trying to find that edit, but Kazi's holding it. He's got to be careful. He could edit this floor at any moment. He's still trying. Kazi, low on HP, has no shield. Oh, that was such a nice play there, Speedy.
That was incredible. Using that little technique where you see the circle through a build, to break it, got to replace.
Yep.
Got the double edit for the pump shotgun.
Nice play there, and King is not going to be out of the woods yet as Adas finds him, but he gets the box off on him, and no, he does not get the shotgun. There's a tactical, so now he's a little scared because the tactical, as soon as these stairs break, he can do so much. But no, he's actually going to edit out, and again.
Fighting for the high ground, secures it, now trying to find the kill and the angle.
Yeah, King just trying to do, oh, he get that back in the box again. But that tac shotgun there is going to clean it up. That's what I'm saying. So very nervous about the tac shotgun getting in there when you're in a box. So Viraxer versus Sake here.
Dusty Diner, so much brick to farm here. Honestly, I mean, Sake has a heavy sniper going for the water place.
What just happened there? I think there was a trap that went off, and then the pump shotgun
I
follow
think
up.
Sake heavy sniped that wall,
Yeah.
replaced it with his own wall,
Yeah.
trapped him in his own box.
In his own box. That's actually crazy. I think they were right on top of the stairs there.
That was incredible.
Good call there on the heavy sniper, and now into Loot Lake. This is right on the factory. People are on the edge of zones. Nice shots there by Pistero. He's going to be looking for those as the game progresses and as the zone continues to close. But definitely now people are looking for the positioning. There's only 66 players left. These players are certainly loosening up today.
Absolutely, and remember, you need to be in the top 50 in order to start getting those placement points.
Yeah, and again, we're coming up on the last games. This is game 6. We got one more game after this, and there's not much time left to get into that prizing. So here into Tilted.
They're actually in zone here. This little building, this corner of Tilted, is the only...
Ooh, excellent shot there by Zixelos. What a play. Just makes the edit.
Pump.
And the pump. So one more player coming in. We saw yesterday in that first game, so many players in Tilted in the first zone. And here again, there's probably 7 or so solos coming in on the rotate. And you said this was the only building that's going to be in zone here.
Everyone's going to have to rotate into this building or onto the mountain, but you know, it's already being claimed, it's already being secured, farmed out, and replaced.
And replaced. This is a tactic you see often. Here, he's almost max materials.
And
there's a little bit
that's
of
that farming through the build. Little trick we saw when we saw that floor replaced before with a double edit.
Yeah. That double edit is not something I've seen that application of this technique go through on the pyramid and the floor, but regardless, here's another player getting up on the top of that brick building. And here's Harkos. We're talking about him with such a good performance.
Currently our number 3.
Currently our number 3. And he has such a good position in zone here, Speedy. All the way center. Right on that edge of Loot Lake.
That's right where you want to be, especially if you have some sort of mobility, but it doesn't look like Moraka doesn't really have a way to get out of this situation if he doesn't have a favorable zone.
Exactly, and here is that zone. It isn't actually going to be a center zone, but again, being center does give you that ability. They are in zone. They're just on the edge now. So it's going to go towards Tilted, not going to cover it.
Jarko's there just saying hello to his neighbor.
Just a little bit of knock knock on that wall.
Hey, your neighbor. How's it going? How healthy are
Going
you?
well, Rocka says. How healthy are you? Doesn't need a trip to the doctor just yet. Here's QLN. I think he's in second place right now. He's in a storm wing. He's going to travel all the way up towards those placement points. And we'll see, actually, here's the Jew. Laid back against him in the box. DJ now.
He does have the option to edit him down if that is his, cone.
Yeah.
It wasn't his cone, actually, but he does have the option to edit
There
it
it is
down.
again, the same thing. These players showing us all sorts of new innovative techniques here at ESL Katowice.
The Polish people are definitely showing us how innovative they can be with these plays.
This is something I would see out of a Speedy Gonzalez video right here. Haven't seen it just yet, but maybe when we get home. Here we go, back on the wall. This is exactly what you want to do. He's using that technique so often. I think it was Blue Tea that showed us this first. He's just trying to break in there.
Just trying to find all the different angles, trying to claim as much territory as he can in order to... Oh, he jumps on into the same box.
Trap. Where is that trap now?
And he ends up getting punished for pushing into that box. I think over the past 2 days, we've seen this repeatedly over and over again. It does not end well when you jump into someone else's box.
It does not, indeed. And so, here's QLN up in the sky. He has plenty of options. He's definitely going to be vying for those placement points. And we see he's such a strong endgame player. I think he's one of the players who've had the most success finding those eliminations in endgame, something akin to what we saw at Secret Skirmish. Still, more and more Wobber places going in. This is the type of close quarters fighting that's so difficult and players are not really used to, but you have to be good at it if you want to fight in these zones.
The problem with Blue Lake is that there is not a lot of places to farm.
Yeah.
If you're low on mats going into this end game, you better start looking for some eliminations.
Definitely got to, and there the pyramid to block up that floor that he got was in his own box. And now the third, that's that shots from other places coming in, and whopping is gonna go ahead and say no, but he is gonna reload that heavy sniper.
Jarkos and Maraca still friendly with each other, now joined by Luther, a new
Yeah,
neighbor.
but this fight is going down. Snowy's all the way down to 43 HP. Oh, the window edit comes in from Hadikos, and he's on the back foot.
Oh, never turn your opponent to an enemy like that unless you're protected. Otherwise, this ends up happening.
This ends up happening. whopping takes advantage there, finds the elimination, and here, Hadikos again on the edge of zone. We talked about this zone. It's about to close again. There it is. Actually, he does get very close to it, so I'm not too worried about it if I'm him.
It's a nice, easy rotation for everyone in the area.
He knows there's Mrwaka, his friend right there. And he was so nice to check on earlier.
So close to that care package here. 77 builds remaining. I don't think that's enough for endgame, personally.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going for the high ground, trying to maintain it.
So what is your goal then if you're not comfortable with your setup going into endgame?
He was close to that care package. Maybe find a rift in there, hope for an RPG. There is a 50% drop rate in care packages. So that might be the play. Yeah.
In 7.4 there. Definitely see if that's possible. But again, those care packages draw a lot of attention, so it's somewhat risky to go for them.
It definitely makes you, someone to pressure, put the target on your back, and you definitely don't want that going into, these populated circles.
These late game scenarios get so congested, so difficult to play in. And so there's actually not many players in the zone right now. There are a lot of players in those Stormwing.
We have 52 players remaining. 2 more players need to be eliminated in order for them to start getting those placement points.
Yeah, and
they're so important.
That's the critical point. We saw actually, was it Evil last game ended up falling in 52nd, and he needed those consistent placements that we were talking about. That's how he has been doing. So players are starting to play more carefully. But here's Serva, not yet managing to finish that elim, but just getting any little bit of damage is so strong here.
He is 200 health. He possibly doesn't want to risk that, exposing yourself, engaging in a fight like this.
And there's Lothar actually engaging onto Hyvix as well. Serva going to come on top of Lothar. Lothar needs to be careful there. I'm not sure if he's in a box below those stairs or if he's hiding underneath the stairs. No, he's in a box. Okay, so.
Trying to gatekeep a little. Just trying to see, hey, this guy seems a little bit weak. I'm going to keep an angle on this guy, keep an open window, make sure that I can get some tags. Maybe it's a free kill.
Yeah, indeed. So if you're just joining us here at ESL Katowice, we are in round 6 out of 7. So this is coming down to the wire. These players are trying their best to get towards that end game. We're just approaching it. Here's going to be the first staggered zone coming soon. The bottle rockets giving everybody a little bit of a celebration. It's not 4th of July yet, but
yeah, if you're going into endgame with some bottle rockets, I'm kind of questioning where you dropped.
Definitely trying to find a little bit more in your inventory for that. But I see Shikuni, I see Makalele, Spizzy actually as well. He rose in the rankings earlier. There's Precious as well. Precious, one of those players who's just on the edge of getting into that extra prizing. We saw him in that endgame 1v1 earlier. He's gonna try to close out. That's what he needs to do. He needs to do as best as he can to reach into that prizing now that he.
No, these Stormwing pilots just trying to play and stay up in the air long enough to get those placement points and accrue them before dropping off when the circle gets too small.
Indeed. So.
The heavy sniper is a deadly combo.
The heavy sniper is one of those we've seen the heavy sniper replaced into the trap. And there, it's a great advantage. He almost takes out that player down below. Hyvix has been getting targeted a lot, but here's Lothar flying off away. Gonna get a tag on him. That's the risk you take when you launch early. Oh, with the shot! He does pick off Sheer, and he gets knocked down right there, but the timing there works out. Rattree.
Beautiful, beautiful pick.
Now he needs to make this rotation, though, across his own, Speedy. No mobility for him. in the Loot Lake. Why is it so difficult to rotate through Loot Lake? Actually, here, Pestero goes down to Zexalos, jumps in his box, and you talked about it, but here it pays off, Speedy.
It does, it does. So you asked me why it's so difficult to rotate through Loot Lake. There's nothing covering. There's no natural cover. It's all flat ground. You have to use your builds or use someone else's builds to get from circle to circle.
Yeah.
There is a mountain to the west that the zone could go on top of, so you always want to be prepared for that.
Definitely, and here's a bunch of replays here. Hadikos actually picking up elimination early in Pleasant. Here's Kuvbas. We saw this fight, but we didn't see that nice shot there. I think we saw from the other perspective, Mikey. There's the clinger that did the damage. And now, towards that end game, here we go.
Moraka currently on the high ground, possibly trying to maintain it as long as he can before he has to jump down to pick up some mats.
Yeah, this is one of those zones that it's just when people start getting comfortable taking high ground. You can see he's sitting on a trap right now, and that's to protect against anybody rifting on him. You see QLN in the background there. He's still up. That's our second place player. There's Tayoski. He's been trying to rise in the ranks
And
as well.
the minigun in endgame.
There it is, just like you said at the beginning. These Polish players love their minigun.
They do indeed.
We saw Hardkos there, Shikuni as well. There's so many of the well-known, the people who are up in standings right now. Shikuni actually goes down. That's huge. That's our first place player, Speedy.
Moraka only had 45 builds remaining. He possibly wants to start looking for some mats. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to hold that high ground.
Yeah.
Might have to drop down to low ground. And, you know, once you're in low ground, you
Definitely, you can actually see a bunch of players fighting behind him. And there's Blacks with that glider redeploy off of high ground. Spizzy as well. There's so many players fighting. There's 4 up there right now. As we approach, there's Hadikos again. 25 players remaining. He has that RPG that we just saw. Spizzy is all the way up. He's got to be careful now. All he has is a shotgun and that compact SMG. 25. Tajovsky gets to nail him in the feed. Evil's still up. That's the consistency we needed from him. Everything is working now. A lot of these players in the top of the standings are doing what they need to do. Hadikos down on low ground, though. He's starting to get on the edge of zone. We'll see what he's able to do. Spizzy goes down. He falls to fall damage. And there's so much action. Evil picks up an Elim. Hadikos picks up one as well. There's the ditch out. Hupek, the player we saw earlier with that heavy sniper. Evil is now so low against
20 HP and no mats, no builds remaining.
Oh,
He had to go for that
Evil.
pump, but gets punished.
Evil getting another one there. I think that's 2 or 3 in the span of a few seconds, but he goes down to ditch out. So Hadikos down on low ground. That's the player I'm watching right now. That's the player I'm... Oh, actually Precious as well. Has such a huge position with high ground. There's only 9 players left. They're just trying to knock him out. That's what he wants to do right now. There's 2 players connected to it.
Precious and Richard still on the low ground trying to fight a little bit, pushing out of his box.
And now here, Hadikos trying to find a little bit of space between him and the other players. That's exactly what you want to do, but there's that RPG that I was talking about. 8 players remaining now. Richard has to find Hadikos. This is such a huge elimination. He doesn't get it. Hadikos gets the elim again. So he's making his way all the way up. This isn't a possibility to take first place here for Hadikos, and another win. It's 1v1v1. 3 players left. Jachu is actually here as well. We'll see. He takes high ground. This is coming down to it. Knocks him down again. Hadikos with that RPG. He's so strong with it.
7 rockets in his RPG.
He just needs to keep them down off this hill right here. This is it. This is his plan. He gets another one. He's at 5 right now. 1 more to find. It's Jachu against Hadikos. And just reloading that RPG, that's the last thing. He's going to try to find an egg when he gets it. What a play here from Hadikos. He's cleaning up the lobby. It's so close. They're right next to each other. This is coming down to it, but he gets knocked down to the floor.
He has no builds, Bala. He can't
has
build
nothing.
up.
Oh no, he actually finds a stair. Is he gonna manage to get in the zone here? Jachu is so many builds. He can keep him out right now, but it's not going. It's going over low ground. Hadikos has an opportunity here. He reloads the RPG. No, he doesn't get it. Jachu wins the game.
Jachu with the win.
Oh my goodness, Jachu there. What an end game. That was so tense. So tense. I think Hadikos actually took first place there.
He was on the low ground.
Yeah.
He got hit with an RPG.
Yeah.
He had the mats to retake high ground, and it ended up paying off.
Yeah.
What an incredible game.
That was insane.
Insane. I can
That
see you're
was insane.
shaking here next to me, Paula. What an end that was to the game. And it just shows sometimes match will prevail. If he can get that high ground back. I just wondered how he was going to stay alive in that situation. You saw Jakos was chasing him down. He hit the RPG shots. He pulls out the pump, but that wall went off just at the right second. I mean, and he managed to get away. And I mean, when you need to pull out a big performance, we need to say as well, before we talk about the win there from JT, that Jarkos come in second place with all the elims as well.
Exactly.
Big points for him. And when he was sitting in third place in the leaderboard, that is a huge performance in a crunch game 6 for him.
Yeah, and I'm out of breath. My heart is pounding just like the game before. And I think Jarkos is definitely going to pull up in first place there. And that's huge for him. We saw Shikuni fall early. We saw Macias wasn't in the end game. Evil was in the end game, which is important to note. He's pulling off that consistency, but again, not the big game that he needed.
Well, he's kind of leaving it down to game 7 now to pull out the big game. If you're going to leave it and for an entertaining finish as well, game 7 obviously the place to pull it out. But it was an interesting game in the fact that a lot of the players we've seen in our top 10, Speedy, kind of fell away a little bit. Didn't make it to that end game, whereas there was a couple who were still in there who had big games. So it's kind of set up nicely. I mean, what's their mentality going to be like, knowing that one of their players who's alongside them in the top 10 had a big game when they've fallen out of contention a little bit earlier?
There's definitely going to be a shakeup in the top 10 on the leaderboards. I'm excited to see them once they're calculated in the background. But Jacho's definitely putting himself up top with that big finish.
Yeah, definitely can't discount the victory royale there. Jachu pulling it off. Does manage to lock him out. Does manage to conserve a little bit more materials there. So
here's obviously some of the replays from that game number 6 we had as well. And we are seeing players start to open up a little bit and obviously need to force those eliminations as well. One player who impressed me as well was Evil, not in the fact that he had the big game, but again, the consistency. At least he's left himself in contention for this final game. Keep an eye on him as we go into game number 7, because it could be his to take. If he takes it in that game 7, has a big performance, you have to say across all of the games he's been consistent enough. He does need that big performance though. He does need that big elim game.
he really does as well. Spizek is one of those players as well who I didn't see towards the end game too much. He was in a plane or in a Stormwing earlier. And there's so many of these players. There's so many people that we're trying to keep track of. But in the top 5, we'll see what the standings like.
Speedy, I wanted to ask you a very quick question about that end game. Looking at how Jarkos did play that end game, is there anything he could have done differently in that situation to pull off that victory royale? Or do you feel like it's just a case of, he did everything he could, it was just a case of fantastic play coming out from JG?
You have, no mats, but you have an RPG. Maybe you could have. There's such a long reload time on the RPG now, especially. But if you had it reloaded, definitely knock him off the high ground. Be preemptive instead of reacting. He had to wait for that player on the high ground to drop down before he made his move. You definitely want to be proactive in that situation.
Well, you can see the standings at the moment, and that big performance coming in from Jarkos has put him into not just the lead, but almost almost a 32-point lead. I should back myself more. It's exactly a 32-point lead. They're at the top, taking over from Shikuni. QLN falling down to 3rd place. Busy moving up to 4th place there. Evil, though, still in striking distance there at just under that pack.
Yeah, and what a good performance from Precious there. He did manage to get a little bit more of those points. He did manage to move from 13th to 11th there, but he's not in that extra prizing right just yet. All these players in 20th to 10th actually do manage to come home with $1,000.
Hey, could be worse, eh? $1,000 on the line here, obviously getting into those placements. But, Tajovsky, we had him on the desk earlier, and he was saying wasn't happy with how we started. He's just sat outside of those money placements at the moment, so a good game from him. And a good game from any of these players could force them into those money placements. But I mean, it's sometimes we want this. Sometimes things are kind of decided before a game 7, right? And it's kind of like you have this game at the end where it's kind of like the lap of honor, so to speak, for the person who's miles out ahead. That ain't happening right now. We've got what, 7, 8, 10 players who could still potentially win this. I mean, I'm going to ask you the question that nobody wants to be asked. Where's your money?
I'm going with Jarkos. He has been showing us the consistency, and just now. He's basically playing better and better. He didn't get the victory royale, but that was such a strong end game, such a strong finish that we saw. I think he got like 4 elims in the end game. That's fantastic, and that's what you need to see going into it. We might have one of those storybook endings where he goes off to win it as well. That's my money.
Okay, Speedy.
I'm going to put my money on Shikumi. We've seen him lose the lead before and come back strong, and I think he's going to do it again.
Okay, gentlemen, well, fantastic stuff. It is all set up beautifully for our final round of the day. It's also time for our final break of the day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.